Bitcoin is at the most important level that will determine how it will perform over the next few days and weeks. In today's video, I'll be discussing this exact level that you need to pay attention to. We'll also be talking about how gold just put in a new all-time high and the worrying signs that come with that, touching on Trump's tariffs, of course, and also the stock market ahead of its open. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So let's kick us off with Bitcoin. We are now at the top of this range that we've been talking about on the channel for the past few days and even weeks. That is $87,500. The question that you probably have is, will we get rejected here? Just a quick recap as to why this level is so important. First of all, we have this green line here, which is the 21-week exponential moving average for Bitcoin, the bottom of the big bull market support band. Then we also have the 200-day moving average, which we haven't quite reached yet, which is this blue line all the way up to $88,200. And then this range that we established between 86.5 to 87.5K is super important because it's the level that we consolidated at before putting in our new all-time high for Bitcoin, as we can see over here back in November. So what you want to consider here is that it is highly likely that this will be a problematic area for Bitcoin. If we can hold above this level and above the 200-day moving average, then I would be very confident that Bitcoin would make its way back into the 90K region. But there's still some worrying signs that we need to pay attention to. First of all, if we take a look at this cleaner chart here, we can still see it's very obvious that Bitcoin is below its 200-day moving average, which, as I said, falls around $88,200. So we need to break above here before we can see any kind of continuation. Second of all, as this is just a huge area of confluence, this is usually when we can expect some kind of rejection, as we've seen time and time again. Over here, for example, as I talked about on the channel, we rolled over when we made it to this level, even with a couple of wicks into the bull market support band. Right now, we are technically back into the bull market support band, but we are still at this crucial level. And another reason why I'm not quite convinced that this pump will continue is because, first of all, we see that Bitcoin was pumping on a holiday weekend. That's an important one because usually when Bitcoin pumps on weekends, it tends to retrace over the course of the week. The books are thin and the volume is ultimately very low. The open interest is also dropping while the price rises. The funding rates are going positive. This is a recipe for a dump, in my opinion, on Bitcoin. Now, I'm just warning you how I'm navigating this market. Perhaps you think that we can go ahead and continue to pump from here. And if you entered a long targeting this region, as we discussed on the channel quite a few times, congratulations, you're likely in significant profit. But my non-financial advice here would be to consider taking profits around this level. I don't think that a higher pump to the upside is guaranteed. And there's a few more reasons for this. Gold is currently pumping like never seen before, setting in a new all-time high right around $3,400. Absolutely insane. And this is happening after Trump came out and said the golden rule of negotiating and success: he who has the gold makes the rules. Obviously, gold would pump after this. And we also need to consider that the tariffs are still heating up. China recently came out and they threatened retaliation over US trade deals. Now, what did they actually threaten? What they said here is that they will punish any international trade deals that undermine its economic interests, particularly those involving the United States. So we discussed in a previous video that the US was potentially looking to block the trading routes to China with their deals with other countries. And now China came out and they're warning against this. The Ministry of Commerce in China has warned of retaliatory measures against countries engaging with the US in a matter deemed detrimental to China. This statement comes amidst ongoing US tariffs affecting various sectors, with China specifically criticizing nations for appeasing the US at China's expense. Things are still heating up, and this is why China continues to accumulate gold, and we're seeing that gold is soaring. China's central bank increased its gold holdings by 5 tons in March, posting their 5th consecutive monthly purchase. This brings China's total gold reserves to a record 2,292 tons. Chinese gold holdings now reflect 6.5 of its total official reserve assets. According to Goldman Sachs, China actually purchased a whopping 50 tons of gold in February, or 10 times more than officially reported. Over the last 3 years, China's purchases of gold on the London OTC market have significantly surpassed officially reported numbers. China is accumulating gold at a record pace. So as we can see here, they just continue to accumulate gold. And obviously this contributes to the gold price soaring. There is so much current economic uncertainty, and that is why we are seeing gold printing all-time high after all-time high after all-time high. So what does this mean for our digital gold, Bitcoin? As I said, I think that it's more than likely that we get rejected, especially with that pump that we got over the weekend. Usually there isn't much follow through. What we want to see here, if we don't get rejected, is to hold this level as support and move above the 200-day moving average, which is $88,200. Then we have all these levels behind us, and if we can hold that blue line as support, that 200-day moving average, that is when we would target above $90,000 and target the bottom of our existing range. Until then, I would still be operating with a little bit of caution, and if you had longed Bitcoin from the lows, my non-financial advice would be to consider taking profits at these levels. That reminds me, if you want to trade Bitcoin based on what we're talking about in my YouTube content every single day, you can do so by trading on Weeks, which is the first link in my description down below. If you sign up, you get a 20% deposit bonus, which means that if you deposit $1,000 into your account, you get $200 back for free for trading. You can get up to $2,000 doing this, which will require you to deposit $10,000 into your Weeks account. You get that $2,000 back for trading purposes. And based on your trading volume, you can also earn up to $28,000. Make sure to sign up. It's the first link in my description down below. All you need is an email and a password to join. Now, the last thing that I want to cover in this video is looking at the stock market. We can see that we had a red weekly close, and it looks like we might be rolling over. But what is the pre-market saying? Right now, all pre-markets are red. So let's see if we can get a reversal for stocks. But if the end of the day ends up closing like this with the stock market, I would imagine that Bitcoin will be getting rejected at this level. So make sure you're paying attention to both stocks and crypto. And to wrap up this video, let's give a little bit of a summary. It's been a quiet 3-day weekend on the tariff front. Heading into the weekend, markets were expecting more deals or deal progress to be announced. With the S&P 500 nearly 10% above its recent low, markets have already priced in a sizable portion of tariffs dropping off. This has resulted in a no news is bad news backdrop for equities. All while we are now 11 days into the 90-day reciprocal tariff pause with earnings season in full swing. All signs point to more volatility this week. And that sums up this market update. Bitcoin has pumped significantly since the weekly close at a crucial level, all while gold is soaring and there is still a lot of tariff uncertainty between China and the US. We'll have to see how things develop, but as I discussed, I think that it's more than likely that Bitcoin does get rejected at this level, especially if the stock market opens in the red and closes in the red. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.